Final Destination Bloodlines is the 6th entry in the franchise. This time around, though, we're following a family whose grandmother escaped death long ago, has managed to avoid them all this time, only for death now to finally catch up and want to take out every family member, attempting to eliminate an entire bloodline that should have never existed. And that's all. Pretty much getting spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. It is a dang good happy day for me because it has been 14 years since the last Final Destination movie. I spent the past week rewatching all 5 movies, reminiscing on what was essentially one of my favorite horror franchises growing up. And yes, I'll have that review of all 5 of those movies this week. I've already filmed them, and Reed, the editor of the channel, is more than halfway finished, so expect it sometime this week. But it's a franchise that has honestly impacted a lot of people. There's always that one death or sequence you can think about that makes you rethink some of your everyday situations, whether it's getting on a plane, driving down the highway, using a tanning bed, whatever it is. Final Destination has most likely made you think, I could die right now. And even that feeling of feeling happy as a fan that we're finally getting another movie, I think was felt all over. The marketing for this film has done such a great job with its billboards or its log trucks driving around. I even really loved the little 40x video of the experience you'd get if you watched this movie in 40x. Seemed like a lot of people were just happy to see this franchise back. They were so happy. In fact, I am so shocked that the current Rotten Tomatoes score of this movie is at a 92%. And the reason I'm shocked is because I don't know if it deserves to be that high. Let me get into the good, then I'll talk about some of the things I thought held this movie back. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I don't think this is a terrible Final Destination movie. I do think this is an entertaining entry that actually hits all the check boxes of what you would hope for in a Final Destination film. You get a really cool accident in the beginning of the movie, and then the following survivors die in pretty horrific ways. What I appreciated this time more than the other movies, though, is its approach on how death was coming. This idea that your grandmother escaped it and has somehow been keeping death away from everybody up until this very point is new. And I think when you're 6 movies into a series, you need sort of fresh ideas or different takes and not just fall into the same formulaic thing, because Final Destination is one of those franchises where you could easily end up making the same kind of movie over and over. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we didn't get a movie for 14 years, because at a certain point, it feels like you've reached all you can do with this series other than just finding different ways to kill somebody. When getting onto the death sequences in this movie, yes, I do think there were a couple of highlight kills that probably make it up there to the top 5 kills in the entire series. The one I'm most specifically thinking about takes place in the hospital. That was the highlight kill of the movie for me. Insane, bonkers, gruesome, and overall very creative for the franchise. Something that I think really helped make this movie memorable, though, is Tony Todd's sequence in this movie. Tony Todd is cameoed in most of the Final Destination movies. It's always nice to see him pop up, but there was something about this performance, knowing it was one of the last times we'd see him, since unfortunately he has passed away. The conversation and speech he gives in here almost feels like he's just talking to the audience and saying his goodbye, and I was honestly having tears form on my eyes and feeling so sad. I know these movies can be schlocky and dumb, but that was a genuinely nice moment thrown in there. And so kind of all that mixed in there, the franchise finally being back, elaborate, crazy, creative kills, a nice moment with Tony Todd. If you're someone at all that enjoys Final Destination or was just even curious about the series, this will make you a fan or will please fans. With that in mind, though, I do think having just watched all of the other 5 movies and then being fresh in my mind, comparatively, I wouldn't say this is one of the best Final Destinations. I don't even think it makes my top 3 or 4 list. That's where I want to get some of my negatives or things I held the movie back. And I want you to understand, I am coming from a nitpicky fan perspective. I'm coming from someone that actually obsesses with this franchise. Although I know they've become silly, dumb, fun movies, I take them seriously. I enjoy this. And so I'm going to voice concerns that I would hope improve the next couple of entries. All right, starting off, one of the things that I thought really disappointed me about this one is we've just gotten to the point now where every kill is just a computer generated effect. Sitting through the past couple of movies, there was a real nice mixture of practical kills mixed in with CGI, and I think that mix of practical really helped a lot of these older films kind of hold up and still be enjoyable today. So although there are a handful of creative kills and pretty gruesome deaths, they are all done with CGI blood, CGIing in a human body, a bone, a head, and it just really takes away from the impact of that scene for me. This movie also continues to lean into that tone of, look how funny we can kill somebody, isn't this kind of hilarious? Which does make the movie entertaining, don't get me wrong, there are some kills that are played up for laughs where they can be fun, but continuing to lean into that is making the series feel more like a parody of itself, and I kind of do reminisce back to the times where a kill could both be creative and dark, while you as the audience still feeling the impact of that person who was just killed. And kind of even branching off with talking about this campy, silly vibe, there's a lot of that with the grandmother character when she's trying to explain the rules of death. I mean, there's flat out moments where this granny is like shaking her fist in the air saying, "You're not gonna get me, death," which I just found a little goofy. This movie also has the problem almost every Final Destination movie has, where it's just a group of nobody characters. They give you small moments to try and get you to care about them a little bit. I will admit I cared about the two brothers that were trying to figure out how to survive, but the main character and the relation to the rest of the family, they were nothing. You were just kind of waiting for them to die, but that's a problem almost every Final Destination movie has. I will say this one is also the slowest paced Final Destination movie. There is a lot more time in between the deaths and kills. A lot of that is used to try and build up the characters and the family dynamic. I don't think they do the best job with that, and sometimes they end up just wasting time reintroducing the next generation to what Final Destination is about, which I guess is just a necessary evil when it's been 14 years since the last movie. And kind of the last thing that I was really hoping would be the standout of this movie is, although they introduced this new reason death is after them, with a whole bloodline that escaped death that shouldn't have existed, I thought there would be at least more in addition to the lore, or more exploring ways to cheat death. I mean, even just that grandma having that book that you see in the trailers super fascinated me, and they really don't touch upon more. They don't expand on it. They just reiterate rules from previous movies. Very minor connections to the other movies. But again, not very many people are going to nitpick as hard as I just did. This is just somebody who likes the series, wants to see more movies. I totally get why people are going to find this one enjoyable and fun, because I had some enjoyment and fun with it. But there is a part of me that's like, I think Final Destination 5 was actually a little bit better than this one. And that's not a knock on 5. I think that's one of the good ones. The only terrible Final Destination movie we've ever had is part 4. And even with all my nitpicks and gripes, no, don't think this movie is anywhere near how atrocious that one was. This is actually enjoyable. So when it comes to Final Destination, I'm gonna give action 3 stars. Like I said, you do wait a while in between a lot of the kills, but when they happen, they're pretty fun to unfold. I just wish there wasn't so much CGI used. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. Yes, there are some very funny moments, and there's some well-timed jokes thrown out. I do just think we're riding that line of this series becoming a parody of itself, and if they continue going down that road, it's gonna be much more comedic over the horror. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I like the new reason for why death was after them. I wish they would have used it to kind of expand the lore a little bit, or maybe give us some new insight to how to cheat death. But no, it was pretty straightforward, still creative, other than just making it another random accident. Horror in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Like I said, a lot of the kills are kind of just played up for laughs. There is still, however, 1 or 2 kills in here that, even though they are kind of funny, they are very horrific to think about. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars, sadly, because they didn't really build up the characters all that well, and the movie is kind of slower paced than the rest. I just wasn't feeling that urgency or that paranoia feeling that death was lurking. Casual moviegoers into the Final Destination universe, I'm gonna give this a B+. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a B-, and critically, I'm going to give it a B-. Final Destination Bloodlines is still a fun return into the universe. I'm glad it's back, and I think this is worth watching in theaters. Again, that's just my opinion on the series, guys. I guess I was just really hoping that this one would shoot up and become one of my newer favorites, but I think there's a lot of other entries I prefer more than this one. Still, though, it was entertaining, and I hope they get to do another one, because I could watch these forever. Let me know how you felt about Final Destination, whether you liked the movie, didn't, anything, everything. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films, or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.